Anything that has consciousness has guides, has a way for you to access the energy of that thing. So your business, Michael, has an Akashic record. Your home, your relationship, a country, a book, a podcast. Everything has its own individual Akashic records. Or you can just simply open up the Akashic records of a human, and then from there they can kind of spin you off into whatever areas of your life might be.
Okay, so it's a if I heard that right, it's a record of your soul decisions, past, present, and future. Is that?
That is perfect.
Intuitive Leadership Mastery, the podcast for entrepreneurs and leaders like you who want to double profits and half stress by improving your business intuition. Learn how with your host, Michaela Light.
Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Priscilla Stephan, and we're going to be talking about how you can use Soulfluent Leadership Archetypes for more profits and joy in your business. And just in case you don't know Priscilla, she helps soul-driven women grow sustainable, world-changing businesses. And she does intuitive business strategy and coaching using leadership archetypes, and we'll explain what those are later in the show. And she also, together with guidance from your Akashic Records, so pretty amazing stuff. And she is about to publish a book later this year. What's the title of your book, Priscilla?
Hi, everyone. It's the Soulfluent Leadership Business Guide. Amplify your visibility, message, and profits by leveraging your archetype.
Wow, that sounds amazing. So we'll put the link to where you can find out about that book as well as her website on the Intuitive Leadership Mastery website, along with all of Priscilla's social links. But maybe we should start off with, because some people may not be sure they really are a leader. Who's this for? Is it only for like big poobah leaders? Or
it's a great question. Well, 4 years ago, I downloaded the Soulfluent Leadership Archetypes body of work or framework through the Akashic Records when my soul guides asked me to write a tiny little book, which turned out to be more than a tiny book. And one of the concepts in this body of work is that leadership is defined as contribution. And so therefore, since we all contribute, right, we all add some value to the world some way, we are therefore a leader. I think that what I love about this is that it creates equality amongst everyone. First, you have value. Second, you have innate talents and gifts, and you get to make a difference however you choose, knowing that it is a valid addition to the global the world. So whether you're a janitor, a school teacher, a mother, a president, a CEO, it doesn't matter. You're providing value. You're making a contribution. Therefore, you lead. Therefore, you are a leader. And the question then becomes, what kind of a leader do you want to be? How do you want to show up in the world? Not from a place of a should or a must or I have to, but from a place of conscious choice and co-creation.
Well, it's very empowering to hear everyone is a leader who's listening to this in whatever realm they're leading, whether it's in their business or in their community or their family or in their own life. You can lead yourself as well.
Yeah.
And you mentioned some words there that we're going to unpack a little later, which was downloading from the Akashic Records. So I'm just going to make a mental note that will explain what those things are. Because some people may never have thought of downloading books or other stuff into, that they can then publish. But I think we better talk about, you mentioned there are different leadership archetypes. So how many of those are there and what are they?
Yes, there are 5 leadership archetypes. And archetypes, the way I describe them, are a set of energies that are in the collective unconscious. So pretty much there are ways of being, patterns, energies that we all have the ability to innately access within us. And some of us, for example, might think of a goddess or a warrior, right? Well, if you think about a warrior, what do you think? Strong, mighty, powerful, kind of might be a bit of a loner, right? There are certain attributes and energies and ways of being that we attribute to certain, like the mother, right? Nurturing, nourishing, kind, right? So these are elements or aspects of our personality that are within us. And archetypes are kind of a way to encapsulate a lot of these energies into a form that we can kind of assimilate in our minds and in our hearts. And so archetypes are a great way for us to understand parts of ourselves in nice little encapsulations. And in my case, there are 5 archetypes. There is the mystic leader, the visionary leader, the explorer leader, the strategist leader, and the divine feminine leader. We all have aspects of each of these within us. However, depending on your phase of life or season in business, different archetypes might shift or become more dominant, almost like a shifting gears in a car, based on what do you need at this time. I am through and through a mystic leader. What that means is my innate gifts are intuitive, healing, creative, and my dominant motivation to lead is to elevate consciousness and to bring harmony and well-being to people and the planet. Right. The other thing I want to add to go back to answer your question about, is everyone a leader? The concept of soul-fluent leadership, meaning that you know how to access, understand, and lead from your soul's leadership language, i.e. your archetype. The whole premise of this is that soul-fluent leaders are leaders that are here to create a world where everyone thrives, a world where our choices, our conscious choices are such that they impact not only ourselves, but the planet, our businesses, our team members, our clients. That we look at the ripple effect of a choice that we make. So it's not just, we'll make more money and, too bad about the environment. Somebody's else going to have to clean it up. Or we'll make more money, but we're going to run down our team and everyone's going to burn out, and have no balance in their lives. It's like, well, how can we create a world where everyone thrives, including the planet? So it's really a bigger perspective of what would it take? What does that look like? Who do I need to be if I want to create that kind of a world, that kind of a business, that kind of a life?
I love that. And I kind of think of it as an abundance mindset. That's the phrase I use for that. But I think it's pretty much the same thing. Or it's a win-win kind of,
It is, exactly. A win-win-win is how I call it. You win, your business wins, the planet wins, everyone wins. It's a win-win-win-win, however many wins you want to add on there. And so when you take the quiz, which is free, and I know you'll give people the access to the quiz in the show notes, you'll identify the archetype that you have been operating from primarily up until now. And when people come to work with me privately, I open their Akashic Records, connect to their guides, and their guides tell me if that archetype is still really relevant for where they are now, or if there's another archetype to focus on next.
Now, are these kind of, you can, depending on what work task you're doing in your business, you could call on different archetypes. For example, if you have some sales calls to do, perhaps you use a different archetype than if you're trying to do strategic planning for your business. Is that the case? Or
that's
are you saying you pick one and stick with it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've never had a situation where somebody's business is kind of pulled apart by different archetypes. What I have seen so far is that if you are an archetype, let's say in my case, I'm a mystic, that goes through all core aspects of the business: sales, branding, marketing, offers, pricing. The business guide has all of these aspects: content strategy, team building, manifesting style. as well as the kryptonite that every archetype has, right? For example, the mystic has a lot of self-doubt, sometimes crippling self-doubt. Not that they're the only ones, but it can tend to be particularly tough. So then how do you handle, your kryptonite? That can mean, sometimes enough is just taking some action. A little bit is enough. Not having, gazillion certifications. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but sometimes we don't think we're ready enough or good enough. And so we keep piling things on, but no, let's go help people now, right? With what we have. And so I would say that it's, the archetype will be that navigating compass in terms of how key decisions in your business are made, especially in your messaging. For example, the visionary is very bold and polarizing in their message. They usually tend to create very leveraged business models where they're very hands-off. Have a tight team. For example, like in the coaching world, it would be maybe there's a flagship 1-year program and a little mini step-up program, but you don't see a whole bunch of things everywhere. They're very tight in how they run their business, very hands-off, and they're usually the face of their business. And they're very polarizing. So their social media, their messaging, their website will kind of shock you a bit, and it will immediately, you will either go, oh my God, where have you been my whole life? Or go, oh my God, I don't like you. It's that kind of energy, right?
Mm-hmm. So where can we see a list of these archetypes and all the different meanings about
so
what
you
they
go
mean?
to, priscillastephan.com/quiz is where it's how you would go, and then
and then you take a quiz and it tells you what your archetype is, and then you can see what. Okay.
Yes. And
or we get your upcoming book.
Well, there you go. Yeah, the book actually has, it has a lot of the core foundational promises and concepts of Soulfluent leadership. And it takes you through each of the archetypes, through all of these categories: manifesting, branding, business model, whatnot. And then there's also the quiz at the end, which you can take manually too when the book is out. And the book also contains 15 examples of archetypal businesses. So there are 3 mystic businesses, there are 3 explorer businesses. So this can give you a sense of energetically, when you look at an explorer business or in social media, like what makes this business like this, even for a mystic, there's an intuitive mystic, there's a creative mystic, there's a healing mystic, just so you give a sense of, wow, like there are so many ways that this business can look like. And so that's what actually took the longest in the book, is identifying businesses that would give me permission to showcase in the book, and legal permission to, their photos and their intellectual property, so I can showcase them as these different examples. And so you can see, for example, a divine feminine archetype leader is community and collaboration driven. So South LA Cafe in Los Angeles, you see it's coffee, community, connection. It's right there outside on their board. They give groceries to the community. It's all about for, by, and with community, right? That's what is their dominant motivation to lead. That is their compass. And so you can get that sense early on of like, wow, this is energetically what moves these people and, helps them make decisions.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like if you align with what your leadership archetype is, then your business is easier to run, and you're not kind of going uphill all the time.
Yes, or trying to throw that much spaghetti on the wall of, do I try this? Do I try that? Or, I think that there's always an element of experimentation. We're always evolving. But there are certain things to keep in mind, For example, for the visionary, although I think everyone can use this, the visionary's number one question is, what is the simplest, most efficient way to accomplish this? The visionary is all about efficiency. They're in a hurry. They don't have time to wait. They have to change the world, And so it's about simplicity and efficiency. What is the simplest and most efficient way to go about this? I think everyone can benefit from that question, but that is a specific visionary leader archetype question. For the mystic, and a question could be, how do I feel about this choice? Does this feel most aligned? It doesn't mean, again, that these are questions that are only for one archetype versus another, but it's usually the dominant question that they will go to. For a divine feminine is, how can I get my community involved, and how will my community benefit from these choices? Those are the underlying elements that are at the forefront when these different archetypal businesses are making decisions which affect, everyone.
So it sounds like if you follow your leadership type, you're going to have much more flow and joy in your business instead of being burned out.
And impact. You will feel, I had a visionary leader talk to me. She said, I had her read the visionary in the book, and she's like, my God, this is so me. But she said, even before she read the book, she said, there came a point where I just decided that I was going to stop doing things I'm not good at, and I know that can sound so, tried, and so many people say that, but it was such a decision in her that she was not trying to be a pretzel and be somebody she wasn't. She's like, look, this is what I'm good at. I'm good at the vision. I'm good at delivering. I'm good at delegating. I suck at everything else. It was just so easy because then she's not trying to invest energy and resources and headaches from doing things she's not good at. That's why, this is a framework about understanding what you're good at, your natural leadership style, and staying in your lane. There's so much good that we have innately. Why are we spending time doing things that we are not good at? Not efficient.
Because the traditional leadership books tell you to.
well, thank you. Well, there is a... on my website, there is a tab called What is Soulfluent Leadership? And there is a table, it's also in the book, which contrasts traditional leadership with soulfluent leadership. And so I would say that traditional leadership has been about hierarchy and the shoulds of leadership. I have to be this way. I've got to dumb down and suppress parts of myself. And soulfluent leadership is not ego-driven, it is soul-driven. It is about expression, authenticity, integrity, choice. And it's about giving yourself permission to be the leader you want to be. And that's both the greatest opportunity and the greatest challenge, is that soulfluent leadership is here to invite you to truly be the leader that you know you truly are, or to explore what that can be for yourself, versus here's the approach of what it's going to take to be successful, fit the mold, climb the ladder, hopefully, supposedly get there wherever there is. And so fluent leadership is not who you're being versus what you're doing matters most, utterly and ultimately. It's energy first.
I'm having visions of 1980s women executives wearing shoulder pads and climbing the corporate ladder here. And you have a lot of energy around this, which is fabulous, Priscilla.
Well, I believe...
Sounds like you did a bit of ladder climbing yourself in the past.
I am highly ambitious, and I think I find myself kind of butting heads within myself of, gosh, I want to be super successful. What would, a business that's like $gazillion worth and impacting millions look like, to I want a simple business. I want to have a simple life. I don't want all the trappings of success. So I find myself going back and forth and finding my way of what does a joyful, simple, impactful business look like for me. I want a business that feels good, does good, and pays good. That's not good English. I know it's pays well. No. But the point is that,
that's good to me.
And because I don't think we need to, I am such a yes and person. Maybe it's because I'm an only child. I believe that you can do good work and you can get paid well, or at least you should give yourself a chance to try,
Yes, of course you can.
Yes.
So. Yeah. Yes, and is such an improv term.
I know. My husband told me that. He said, "You didn't realize that." I'm like, no, but thank you. You're absolutely right. It's the yes and. I'm not an either or person. I don't do or very well because I like what I want. I want what I want, and I want it now.
All right. So let's just go back and explain some of those words we used earlier. So you talked about you downloaded the book. Now, when some people heard download, they thought, oh, yeah, you just go on iTunes or whatever.
Yes.
And you're downloading it. But you meant something a little different. So what do you mean when you say downloading ideas or books or business strategy?
I think that, some people say I download and they had it like they have a vision or a dream or an inspiration and then it just kind of comes to them, right, from beyond their brain. So in this case, the Akashic Records is a space for you to connect to your soul, and ideally through your soul guides, where they kind of communicate with you. Everyone has the ability to connect to their Akashic Records and to their guides. But I open my own Akashic Records. I sit down and I start typing, and I say, guides, just tell me what you want me to be the conduit for. So I open up my records. It takes a few seconds. I can sense that the guides are talking. And so as I hear them in my ear, I just start typing. And usually I can type for about 90 minutes until my head hurts. And then I stop, and then I come back, and then I do another, a few days later. And then I come back and I'm like, okay, I have no idea what I typed. I don't understand what has been said. This was the whole body of work for the archetypes. And then this was also the case for the business guide. My whole idea was, okay, guides, 10-page PDF. Let's just write a little mini bullet point thing. 10 pages turned into 30, 50, 100, and now we're at 150 pages worth of stuff.
Fabulous. It sounds a lot less work than having to think your way through writing the book.
I so love that. Anything I have to do, if I have to write a sales page, if I have to write a newsletter, if I have anything, I'm just like, okay, just give it to me. I'm lazy. I'm not going to lie. I don't like to work a lot. So I just like, okay, guys. And then of course I spruce it up with human, 3D language. But yes, that's how I do it.
So another word for that might be channeling.
Channeling is the word. Yes.
Yeah.
You're listening to the Intuitive Leadership Mastery Podcast. Get detailed show notes on today's episode together with your free What Would It Take Business Intuition Guide at intuitiveleadershipmastery.com. And now, back to today's show.
Now, you mentioned two other words there that I'd like to unpack for our audience. One is guides, because not everyone is in touch with their guides or even know what a guide is. What do you regard as a guide?
This is my interpretation of it, that these are invisible beings in the ethereal realm, whether you call it universe, I don't know, intelligent beings that guide us and want us, mean us well, that we can access for insight, guidance, information, clarity. Some people call it their higher selves. In my case, I call it the Akashic Records. Some people channel, Saint Mary or Saint Francis or saints or, angels. I think there is a multitude of invisible beings in the ether, in the, heavenly realms that we can access. I happen to access my soul guides through the Akashic Records, which is a database of our soul. And these guides kind of accompany our soul through every lifetime and are here to provide clarity and guidance. And to me, it feels like they're a bit of a committee. They don't have faces. They just seem white. And it just feels like maybe a dozen of them or so. And you can open up the Akashic Record, meaning anything that has consciousness has guides, has a way for you to access the energy of that thing. So your business, Michael, has an Akashic Record, your home, your relationship, a country, a book, a podcast, everything has its own individual Akashic Records, or you can just simply open up the Akashic Records of a human. And then from there, they can kind of spin you off into whatever areas of your life might be important.
Okay, so it's a if I heard that right, it's a record of your soul decisions, past, present, and future. Is that?
That is perfect. Yes. And how you access that is usually through a prayer. There are different people that teach it in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And it's I know I'm in the records in that energy because I feel a shift in my energy. It feels warmer because the energy of the Akashic Records is of love and truth. The records are always a space to benefit you. It is a sacred space that requires permission. Nobody should be accessing. I don't know if even the guides allow someone, to, with ill intent, to access someone else's records, because it's kind of like almost like a safety deposit box. Not everyone is, you're not supposed to just willy-nilly go into someone's space because that's just not cool. So you need someone's permission. Every time I open someone's Akashic record, I say, do I have permission to open your records? It must be a conscious choice to do so. And then you access, and I see, hear, and feel information. And it's almost like a movie that's I'm watching. So I can see things, I hear things, and I feel, and it's all happening at once. And I just convey it to the person.
Sounds amazing.
It's fun. And the good news is, like I said, everyone has the ability to access their own Akashic records. And usually wherever training you take, you learn how to connect to your own guides first and to build that relationship. And then you can learn to read other people's records. You can learn healing and other powerful ways of cutting cords and, shifting past life energy and karmic debts. I mean, there's so much you can do in the records. And some people have medical intuitive ability and work with body stuff. Some people love to do relationship stuff. Some people do business stuff. I am strictly business and now leadership. I really don't enjoy or am particularly skilled as much as I am on the business and leadership stuff, and just really being able to type out pretty dense bodies of work,
No, it's fabulous. So now you mentioned that it somehow relates to your higher self, your soul or your intuitive self or your spiritual self, whatever you want to call the higher self. So how does the Akashic Records relate to that?
I'm not entirely sure. I don't know if the soul and the higher self are the same thing or parts of the same. I should know and research it. So I won't make a conclusive response just because I don't want to give people the wrong idea. My sense is that it might be slightly different, but I think you're still accessing a higher awareness energy of your own spirit. That's maybe transcends ego or transcends the mind, but that's as far as I can go for now.
Now we mentioned that these are your past records and your future, and I know some people see time as linear and other people see it as circular, or
yes.
all the times are accessible at once, which certainly is my view. Do you help people modify your own records from the past or future? Or
I think that you can, when you release karmic debts or hooks or, revisit or perhaps heal events or contracts from the past. I don't focus a lot on the past. That's, again, not my jam. My sense is that by healing the past, however that happens, that inevitably shifts who you become in the present, right? Either because you have a different perspective on something or an insight that you might not have had about yourself or an event in the past, or maybe you feel less encumbered by something that you either realized you were encumbered by or didn't even realize you were, encumbered by. So yes, I think it can. And I will say too, in terms of future, the records are not predictive in terms of, I always tell people, I'm not a psychic. I'm not here telling your future. It's very much a space of you come prepared with your questions. You come as a fully sovereign being, knowing that you are not giving your power away to me or to the guides. You are coming with the intent of gaining clarity from a space of love and truth from your guides, knowing that you have free will and choice to make your choices in this 3D reality based on common sense and based on your ability to make an informed decision of your own. That being said, though, I do believe that the records are a place for you to live your best, most purposeful life and to give you clarity and to grow as a soul by accessing them. It is a spiritual development. I guess, obstacle course it has felt like, in 7 years that I've been accessing it.
Well, I think many people are here for spiritual growth. And I often think, starting a business as an entrepreneur is a way to accelerate spiritual growth in certain areas of our lives by overcoming challenges we have to hiring people or sales or whatever the visibility or whatever the thing is.
Feeling
money, yes.
Making
Don't
money.
Forget the money.
Yeah, making money, having it, receiving it, spending it, all of it.
I mean, in some ways, these things are sort of like a magnifying glass. If I have an issue with something, I'm going to have 3 times as much of that issue if I start a business or if I have more money to do it. It's analogous. I see it to the way relationships are. If I have a girlfriend or boyfriend or get married, it tends to bring up issues even more than if I didn't. So it's all very easy being spiritual if you're hiding away in a cave, not running a business, not in relationship, not growing old.
It does. It does. I mean, I am married with a husband that's, 13 years older than me, currently in the process of buying a home, doing lots of adulting money calculations. We're in it. We're definitely in it in the moment, and running a business and got 4 babies. And, there is the spiritual realm that is very interwoven with the day-to-day mundane aspects of life as well. And I think there's a lot of spiritual growth that comes from taking action as much as there is from stillness. They can go hand in hand.
I think they in a good business, they do go hand in hand. There's a Frank Sinatra song, Doobie Doobie Doo, and I think that applies to business, that it's good to do things and it's good to be, and it's good to do some things and it's good to be.
You're so wise. That's perfect. Yes, I don't remember that song, even though I do like Frank. I'm not a connoisseur of Frank.
I don't know if that's the title of the song or it's just a phrase in the song.
Yeah. I love it.
Now I want to find the song so I can hear him. Because he was a great singer, and I think he was quite good at business, though he sometimes got a little distorted with some friends he had. So I'm kind of curious. You mentioned in the 3D world, 3D reality. How many other realities do you experience?
I'm not an expert on this. I have heard, I think that there, like 12 dimensions. I really don't know. I think that's what I've heard. I think that, I think what I've heard is, but then I heard differently that, we're like in the 3rd dimension, hence 3D. And then there's the 4th, and then the Akashic Records are in the 5th dimension. And then I don't know what else keeps going beyond that, but I hear that I don't know how to access them. I haven't tried. I don't know if there are 12, but supposedly there are multiple dimensions that go, at higher frequencies of vibration, I guess.
Yes, I've read and learned there are many different dimensions. Some say 144 or anyway, certainly more than, if you're going to be an angel or an archangel, you're probably at a lot higher vibration than most humans. So, not that humans can't have high vibrations, we can, and maybe that's part of what we're learning to do here on this planet, in these bodies, in this piece of time that we selected to incarnate in.
Yeah.
So it's all very interesting. So now, you're very good at asking questions, Priscilla. Tell me a bit about the types of questions you ask, and why the kind of question you ask as a leader makes a difference to those around you and to yourself.
I think that if we don't catch ourselves, we can find ourselves in a default of coming from a place of conclusion, assuming that there's only a certain way of outcome or possibility. But when we ask, as you called them, expansive questions, like your question, what would it take? What would it be like? What kind of a leader can I be? What kind of a contribution can I make today? What is possible with my relationship with money? Like these are questions that open the mind to possibilities that then somehow, I don't know if our mind starts to look for different answers. You know, all of a sudden you open yourself up to possibilities that, you know, if you go, well, just think of it this way. Let's say somebody says, well, I'd like to open a new business. Oh, you know, Michael, that can't be done. You need this and this and this. Or you can say, what would it take to open a new business that, you know, makes me happy? What would it take to create a business that sparks joy and makes a difference? What would it take to have a community that's really engaged and where each person values each other and cares about one another? All of a sudden, now your mind is connecting the dots of different answers to that if you just shut things down with a conclusion, it can't be done, it's going to take too long, it's never going to work. Well, that's one perspective. Doesn't mean it's the only perspective. And so as leaders, we're here to enhance whatever it is, bottom line, you know, clients, a better world, and actively seeking possibilities that transcend the logical, you know, conditioned mind or conditioning of what's always been done. It comes down to asking a different question, you know.
I think the questions we ask make an enormous difference to the results we get.
They do.
And how I'm hearing expansive questions that you gave lots of examples for is that, as opposed to contractive questions that are kind of yes, no questions or judgmental questions or restricting us in some way. So they're opening up our possibilities, both in our mind and in our connection to our higher self.
Yes.
And maybe it also opens us up to the other dimensions we live in. You know, I think everyone is a multidimensional being. Yeah, sure, we have 3-dimensional bodies and bank accounts and what have you. But we also do have, you know, a spiritual component, as do our businesses. Our businesses have 3-dimensional things. Maybe they build houses or do coaching or whatever they do. But they also have a spiritual aspect, which we don't always get in contact with. And I personally believe our businesses have a spirit. You know, you were phrasing it as you could read a business's Akashic Records. You know, I think our businesses have a soul, a spirit. They actually want to grow in certain ways. And the same with books. I mean, I've written 3 books, and really, you know, did I write the book or did the book come to me to get written, you know? And I think the latter version works better. And the same with business. Did I create this business, or did the business pick me to incarnate because I was the most attuned to creating this kind of business? And if I work well with that energy of the spirit of the business, then the business is successful. And if I'm trying to force it, it doesn't work as well.
Exactly. I would completely agree with you that every business, I believe, has a soul, it has its own, i.e. it has its own consciousness, right? It has its own energetic signature, its desires. And another great question to ask is to ask your business questions, you know? So whatever your business name is, Michael, so let's say Michael Enterprises, you know, LLC. I'm just imagining.
Well, it would be, in my case, it would be Michaela Enterprises.
Michaela, so. Yes, Michaela Enterprises. So what would be, you know, Michaela Enterprises, what would you like me, how would you like to be shared today? How would you like to market yourself? What would you have me say today? So there are ways to communicate, connect with, and co-create ultimately with the energy of your business. Because I think we think, oh, I'm the visionary. I've got to come up with all the answers. Well, what if you ask the business and then you go execute? You don't have to come up with all the answers yourself. The business helps you.
Yeah. And for some people, that may come as actual words or channeling. For other people, they may get, visions or dreams or, there's many ways we can get intuitive information. And if the people listening don't hear things in their head, there's nothing wrong. Maybe you get your information from your business's spirit or your higher self a different way. And,
absolutely. It can be,
or maybe synchronicities is another common way,
Yes, absolutely. There is no one way. Sometimes it can be multiple ways, and we're evolving and developing new ways. Some people like to ask for signs, universe, show me 3 signs, that can be a way. Each person, some people consult with spirit animals or go on shamanic journeys. I mean, there's so many ways it can be done. Or some people just have a gut feeling. It's a yes or a no. All good.
It's all good. Well, we're nearly out of time. I know you have another thing to do with your exciting house purchase, and I'm sure you're going to talk to the spirit of the future house you're getting. But I've got a question that I ask all my guests, which is, what would it take to make business intuition more openly used this year? Because sometimes people kind of cover this aspect up.
Well, I think that it comes down to, if you're aware that intuition is valuable in business, to make the choice to practice it daily. It is a practice. Intuition is a practice of trust and of openness and awareness. One of the first exercises my Akashic Records gave me was to spend half of my day just taking action based on my intuition, which was horrifyingly scary. And so now, but it has allowed me to ask, okay, so what should I do next? What am I feeling into? So it's a practice. It's a muscle just like any other. And secondly, to be courageous, if you feel like you can, to lead in your business in that way, to be an example that intuition is a good thing. It's not some woo-woo thing. I hate that it's become like this bad thing. It's actually the key thing to everything.
It makes life a lot easier, I think, and more joyful and profitable. So I think it's good to do that. And maybe people who are new to it can just practice in small ways. Maybe don't use it on that $1 million client deal, but start with some smaller prospecting as to which prospects feel like the right ones to contact today, or, perhaps with other smaller things. So if people want to find you online, Priscilla, what's the best way to do that? PriscillaStephan.com. I'm also on Instagram at Priscilla Stephan. And if you want to take the 3-minute free quiz to uncover your Soulfluent Leadership Archetype, go to PriscillaStephan.com/quiz. So we'll put all those links in the show notes. And just for everyone listening, Stephan is with an A, not an E. So that's a mistake I nearly made earlier. And it's been wonderful talking with you about all your work and adventures. And I wish you the wonderful success with your new book coming out and spreading this message of business intuition, Akashic Records, and your Soulfluent Leadership Archetypes into the world.
Thank you. You're such a wise, grounding, lovely host. It's been such a pleasure to speak with you. It's like I don't even need to finish my sentences. You already captured it all. I love it. So thank you so much for having me.
All right.
Get detailed show notes on today's episode together with your free What Would It Take Business Intuition Guide at intuitiveleadershipmastery.com. Create a fabulous and profitable day. What would it take?